Yo, what is up, everybody? Elestriad Season 2. Let's talk about it. So let's talk about me, I guess, first. So I'm in the Elestriad Season 2. I got an invite. It wasn't like Season 1 where I talked about over here where it was an elimination bracket. I got invited. We're going to talk about myself here. We're going to talk about the format, the draft, the deck, the matchups. We're going to go over the entire Elestriad announcement in depth as someone who's actively in the Elestriad without spoiling the Elestriad. So don't worry about spoilers. We're just going to talk about the Elestriad based on what's released in the video and some cool things here and there from behind the scenes from, hey, I'm in the Elestriad. Like and subscribe for more content for Elestrals. I've slowed down a little bit on the content because I've been doing the Elestriad. Surprise. We've been staying up like 2, 3 in the morning some nights labbing decks because we want to win. And boy, do Emperor Watts have an uphill battle to climb. It's going to be tough. Like, we really are the underdogs here. And we'll get into that. We'll get into the decks. We'll get into why it's going to be harder for Emperor Watts over Cryoscorches to win. But let's talk about the draft first. Let's talk about the people. Oh, these awesome people that I'm playing with and against, versus. So first off, my team's awesome. I don't know why MBT picked me as his second draft pick, but I'll take it. I'm assuming the Elestronauts are probably whispering in his ear, like, pick words, pick words. Thank you, Elestronauts, probably. The fake number 1 Elestrals YouTube channel. I'm on to you. If you divide your number by 4, because there's 4 of you, then you have less subscribers than me each. So I win number 1 Elestral Super right here. So I got picked number 2. Trish. I didn't know who Trish was, no offense. But he's an awesome Yu-Gi-Oh player. I've been jamming games with him. He's awesome. PK Sparks didn't really play a ton of Elestrals. He's labbing out games. Awesome dude. Great personality. And, like, I can go into the entire team. Everyone's been awesome. Everyone's just been great. It's such a fun time. We've been sitting there. But, yeah, so draft goes. Teams picked. MBT's our captain. Coder's their captain. We're having an uphill battle, not because of our players, because of our decks. So let's talk about the decks. Everyone on their team starts with Cryoscorch. They start with the Cryoscorch starter deck, as well as 2 decks of their element. So effectively, every player starts with 3 starter decks. Their team all starts with the Cryoscorch starter deck. That is really good because they get 2 Gorgons, they get 2 Tsunamis. So they have access to Water Spirits for Tsunami plays and counterplays, and they have access to Gorgon's Gaze, one of the best counter runes in the game, as well as they have easy access to just a really early beatdown engine with the Cryoling Ascension, where you just go Cryoling after 5 Frost Spirits, pop Cryoling, Cryovern, now have a 7-tag beater, and this is a limited format. So we don't have the normal full suite of removal that a deck would normally have, so we're going to be struggling to deal with some of those big beaters they can have early. But the opposite end of that is our decks come with more hard removal. We have 2 shields each, which Shield of Achilles is obviously very good at bouncing things, especially bouncing big things that have to attack. And Resting on the Laurels, which is super efficient, cheap removal, but it's not always online. So that's a little iffy. We have Boombats, we have Ash Rabbits off the rip, which is also really powerful. So we have lots of really good defensive tools. They have some defensive tools and aggressive tools, but no hard direct removal. So we'll get to that later. From there, we had to pick our elements each, so that again went snake style draft. So their first 3 players picked up Frost, which means they get 2 of our Penguin decks. How dare they? Penguins are ours. But they do get 2 Penguin decks each for their first 3 players, so they get access to the shield, the rabbits that we had, as well as Keone. And what that means is those Frost players can transition super cleanly into a Morfrost play, because Morfrost as a deck for accessibility, all the cards are common, uncommon, and rare that you need. They get the Shattered Stars common version of Terraform, so they really just need to dig for a couple of A-bombs, and they're almost guaranteed to get Lycans and Indis on top of the Cryling package, and then their decks are set, so that's why picking up Frost is really important. Our team picked up Thunder. We're already on Thunder cards, so if we pick up Thunder and deny them Thunder packages, we can end up with a Thunder Nexus deck, which is going to be a little weak early on because their only options for removal are 2 Royals and Zeus plays and Shields. And maybe Race to Top if they pull it in their starter deck box. But it is a struggle for Thunder players early on because they have limited removal, but they're going to be able to build Thunder Nexus pretty cleanly into the future weeks. So that's pretty good there. Then they picked up 2 Earth decks to our 1 pickup of Earth deck. Why was Earth so important right after those two core deck strategies? Well, Thunder and Frost are both pretty simple to build out of the boxes. So Thunder Nexus gets there in a couple weeks. Frost gets there in a couple weeks really easily. Why'd they pick up Earth? Because Earth is really hard to upgrade because you need, what, Viserys or Hollow Rares. You need maybe a Verlith. Everything Earth wants is pretty difficult to get, or you go Jotaya Engine, but you need to find Lotagon perhaps to actually make use of it. And that's because Earth has lots of good removal options in PTAs and Earthquakes, which are great trade fodder to the other players. And remember, all the Crash Course team has Gorgons, so now they can have Gorgons and they can pass on week 2 some PTAs to everybody. On our side, we pick up the 1 Earth, so we get some Earthquakes, we get some PTAs to pass to a few people. Generally looking at like 2 ofs of every counter rune that we can find to everyone we can. We're limited on PTAs. They can pass PTA to a few players. That's going to make the removal and counter game option really difficult for the Penguin team. Which is, again, another reason why I mentioned earlier, Penguins were having an uphill battle, at least at the start, because we have to kind of pass a bunch of removal options around to our Thunder players and really try to pull things for the Fire players to cement like Lavalets and stuff, while they just go, cool, well, here's my normal rares that I need. And here's my Earth beatdown deck without Viserys, which is still fine. And it's a struggle. After the Earth players picked up their stuff, again, that's what Earth players picked up stuff for removal options to pass the team. We picked up Fire, they picked up Water, we picked up Fire, they picked up Water, we picked up Fire. So we picked up 3 Fire decks, and if you haven't caught on now, we need the Fire decks to get Gorgon's Gaze, which everyone on their team already has. So we have to get Gorgon's Gaze for the team, who then trade down the line to the team. So we picked up Gorgon's Gazes, or rather we picked up the Firestar deck for Gorgon's Gazes. And Firestar deck, as you all know, isn't the best in Constructed, but with the additions of the Shattered Stars and a couple of pieces here and there, it's a workable deck, and we have the Gorgons to get to the rest of the team. They picked up the Water decks. Water is pretty good. Out the box, they can play Krakatuga, which is a pretty stally deck, so if the Water go against the Thunder early on, Thunder doesn't have the removal, they just drop Krakatuga and burn them out. Interesting decks there. They can also transition those decks to Locagon later on, where if anyone picks up 1 or 2 Locagons, they pass them to the Water players. The Water players can now play Locagon Stall, which is going to be a really difficult deck to deal with limited removal in the format. Limited removal, limited format, basically. Like, you're going to be able to play a lot more riskier big threats than in Constructed, because of we're not playing with 3 EQs, 2 Royals, 12 back row. We're playing like 6 to 9 back row and a couple of hard removal cards for everybody. Even them, like, yes, they have Gorgons, they have Tsunamis and stuff, but you can play around some of that. It's an uphill battle, though, nonetheless. It's a format of what removal can you find and what deck consistency can you find. Meanwhile, our Fire players all picked up Fire. There's not a ton you can do with Fire. Even in Constructed, you have like standard Fire beater stuff where you play like Valkyries and big things. And then you have Fire Ascension, which without Lavalith, without even Caprofume might be relevant, but no Caprofume off the rip. Fire Ascension's a little iffy. Our Fire players are going to have a hard time, but our Fire pickups mean that we can trade Gorgons to our team, and our team can trade anything they don't need to us to potentially transition to different Fire like archetypes. So that's really cool. Let's talk about the trades a little bit here, since I keep talking about trades and why the decks were picked up as they were. There's some strategy, and the deck draft went pretty much identically to how everyone expected it to go. We expected them to try to yoink the Frost, so we tried to yoink all the Thunder from them, and vice versa. We thought maybe they might pick up Thunder, then we'll pick up 1 Frost. We ended up just stealing all the Thunder away from them, and they took all the Frost away from us. But the trade. So we get to trade 3 times for 3 cards. So that means each week, 1 person on each team won't be able to trade, but we can trade up to 3 cards. So all the Fire players on our team are just going Gorgons go Burr to the rest of the team, and their team is basically going PTA go Burr and whatever else. Maybe they pass some Royals around to their team. And it's going to basically be the week 1 trade. I don't see it going any other way. You guys will see that when the trades come out in the videos. But basically, it's going to be Gorgons go Burr, PTA go Burr, unless some crazy pulls happen, like someone pulls a billion Lavalith or something. But the trade format's really interesting, because it means now, like, if I pull dead cards, like, unless you're at Season 1, if they pulled a dead card that doesn't work for their element, well, they can pass it to someone on their team that it does work for. And it's a really interesting dynamic now where now it's like I'm playing on a team that's trying to win week 1 through 7 or to get to the finals, but also might not want to trade stuff to my allies to try to save it for the final tournament bracket if we win the whole first event, which is interesting. So when a team wins the first 7 weeks, it goes into an elimination bracket where the top seeded player on the winning team gets a bye to finals or semis or something like that, and the other 6 players play an elimination bracket to get to finals as well. Meaning that you kind of want to trade powerful cards to spread them around your team so you have a better chance of winning the main event, or I guess the preliminary team event, while also holding enough stuff to get to the final event and do better in the final event. It's a weird dynamic, but ultimately the game plan is for, I think, both teams is you have to win the 7 weeks to get to the finals anyway. So if anyone's playing greedy to try to like, no, these are my Gorgon's gauges, you're never getting them to their team, well, now their team has less chance of winning. So I'm pretty sure both teams are just going to be trading to optimize the entire team's decks as opposed to, yeah, I'm going to win this event at the end and screw my team over the entire. That's not going to happen. I will say also from behind the scenes thing to wrap this up, everyone on my team has been amazing. We're all like labbing and playtesting decks to go into each week, and there has been a lot of like 2 a.m. conversations, hence again why I haven't been making a ton of content, because I've been spending too much time not editing and talking, playing Elestrals, of like 2 a.m. like, wait, what if we get this in play? How do they win? And you'll see a lot of really, really fun, interesting text from both teams, because again, it's a limited format, so these kind of weirder strategies can shine a ton. And that's where I shine personally. I come from a ton of limited and MTG background before Elestrials, so like limited's my jam, and we hook. They cook. There's some really crazy, interesting decks that you're going to see even in week 1 that you're going to go, I would have never expected that to happen. And it did, and did. It's crazy fun. It's the first week's matches were just perfect. Like there's a couple, I'll not even talk about it. We're not going to talk about the match specifically. You're gonna see them. We're gonna see them, but they're awesome. They're great, and you really get to see what a lot of decks shine and do, and kind of what the limited format really entails with deck building and kind of how you have to play them. So super cool stuff. I'm gonna pretty much wrap this up here. I hope you guys enjoyed. And again, like and subscribe. We're going to be talking about the Elestriad each week. Maybe I'll get some of my teammates on here as well to talk about the Elestriad as well. And if you have any questions about it, let me know below because I'm in it. So I hopefully know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about questions if you guys have it. And see you guys in the next one. Peace.